Hello, everybody. Yet another podcast from Hidalgo, and today we're going to talk about migration from server to cloud. And we have a most honorable guest today, and that's Joachim Bollen. Joachim, can you introduce yourself?
Yes, good morning. I'm Joachim Bollen. I'm one of Hidalgo's Atlassian heroes, as we call ourselves. And I've been working for Hidalgo for about a year now. And the last few months have been very busy with migrating to the cloud. A lot of customers are asking us if it's a good idea, if it's the right time to migrate to the cloud, or should they wait a bit? And that's what I'm going to talk about today.
Excellent. So the first thing would be, how do you take a decision, or any way in the direction you're going to move from server to cloud? Why would you go to cloud?
Yeah, why would you go to cloud? Well, the first reason is, Atlassian has announced that they will stop supporting the server platform in a few years. So you have a time window of a few years to consider migrating to either cloud or data center. Data center is a good solution for larger customers, but the smaller customers, they don't really have a choice. Either they can stay on the cloud, stay on server for a while and migrate to cloud later, or they should migrate right now. Main reasons to consider are that in cloud, not all the features are the same as on server. So you need to make sure that all the features that you need for your installation are already available in cloud, or a good workaround is available. If it's not, then it's probably best to wait a bit and see if in a few months or a year that the features are there, and then you can consider migrating a bit later in time.
Okay, so then migrating to cloud is one, but then you have more than one flavor. There are about 4 available flavors for the moment. And let's say I'm a company averaging about 100 people, and somebody else is averaging 1,000. What are they going to choose? What are the topics for or the priorities to make a correct choice?
Yeah, it really depends on what you need. So the size of the company, of course, a little company will probably be more wary of the extra costs of an enterprise or a premium cloud instance. So you really have to evaluate if the features that are there are really needed or not, or you can do it with the standard plan. The main features for the service management, for example, is that you have the CMDB options in the premium and enterprise plans. So you can have the inside CMDB database, which is not available for the standard plan. And the same for Confluence, where you have the team calendars, which is also a really nice feature, but it's also only for the more expensive plans.
Yeah, indeed, it's only available from premium and onwards. And for small companies, enterprise is out of the league because it starts from 800 users and onwards. Indeed. And indeed, the pricing is very ambitious.
Yeah. Another factor is the data residency, which is standard in the enterprise plan, that you can choose where to store your data, but that's something that will change in the future and will also be available for the lower plans, because that's really an issue most of European customers are facing, that they don't want to or are not allowed to have their data stored outside of the European Union.
Yeah, correct. Okay, let's say I did my assessment and I'm made the correct choice. I'm going to a cloud premium, for example, which in fact vast majority of the customers is heading for. What are the steps that make a migration successful?
Yes, so yeah, there is a lot of preparation. The first step is choosing the right environment, and you have to assess what are the features that you really need. Do you need the premium, or can you go with standard? Once you have done that, then it's time to plan your migration. There is a certain amount of time that is needed to migrate, especially if you have a lot of add-ons that will increase the time. So you first have to plan it. Once you have planned, made a good timeline, then you can start to prepare it, and then a test migration is done. In this test migration, we will do everything as we should do it in production, but there will always be some minor hiccups or issues that we encounter, and that's why we do a test. The test can be validated, and after that we do the final migration with all the things we mentioned, all the things we encountered during the test migration, we can mitigate in the production migration. Once the production migration is done, there is still a window of a post-migration where we can tackle some issues that pop up and evaluate what we did good, what we can do better for the next migrations, and learn from it as we go.
Okay, so which are the pitfalls, in fact, we can encounter during that migration?
Well, pitfalls, there are many pitfalls that you can encounter. It all depends on the environment of the customer. From my experience in the last few months, one is, for example, if you have a service desk with lots and lots of customers, then an automated migration can give problems because not all the customers can be migrated in one go. So you have to ask assistance from Atlassian to help import all the customers. That's one issue. Other issues can be for Jira software, for example, if you have lots of boards in the cloud, all the boards are linked to a project. In the server environment, that's not necessarily the case. You can have boards standalone, and those will give issues when you migrate. So we have to recreate those boards in the cloud and make sure that they are linked to a project so that they can be consulted afterwards. Also for plugins, each plugin has its own migration path. Sometimes it's a lot of manual work, sometimes it's automated. So that's each time a surprise to see how it works.
Yeah, the surprise comes because you have a few thousand add-ons and they all are third party. So there is not really one structured way to move an add-on. It's different for every add-on almost.
Yeah, it's not one size fits all. It's really add-on per add-on that you have to make a plan to migrate it. Some have very good support for that. Others are also just in the infancy stage of migrating to cloud. They have a cloud version, but they don't really have a roadmap at this moment how to migrate from server to cloud. So that's really dependent on the add-on. Yeah. The most popular ones, they already have some guidance on how to migrate, but the more obscure plugins, they can be a problem.
Yeah. So Atlassian has invested a lot the past years in their cloud, and they also prepared and tried to help in that migration, and they created kind of a playbook, and although the word play is in it, it's about work. Should rather be called workbook instead of a playbook.
Yeah.
Or a scenario to complete your migration successfully. Can you elaborate a little bit on that part? Thanks.
Yeah, so they created a playbook, the phases that I mentioned earlier. So to plan, prepare, test, and the final migration. That's part of their playbook. They have, for each phase, they have a list of checkboxes that you can check to make sure that you don't forget anything, which is very useful to do the migration. And another part of it is also that for the partners, they provide support. So once you start a migration, you will always have someone at Atlassian side to be standby to help you if you encounter issues. And it's really helpful to go forward with your migration and not be blocked by something waiting for support to handle your issues.
Yeah, so it's a kind of a proactive way of preparing the path for the migration.
Yes, indeed. And the support is very, very good, I must say. We have encountered some issues, and there's always within 24 hours you get your support. Once you are in the testing phase, they are also looking together with you for the production dates to make sure that even in weekends there is someone available from Atlassian side to help in the production migration.
Okay, so since you mentioned that a migration is not really a walk in the park or a push on the button, one size fits all kind of thing, are there any tools available to help out in those type of migrations?
Yeah, for the migrations for Jira software and for Confluence, there is now a very nice migration assistant available on the server instances that will help you migrate the core data of Jira. So all the Jira specific or the Confluence specific data can be migrated with this assistant, but still for the add-ons, you will have to look for other ways to migrate it, because the migration assistant will indicate these add-ons can be migrated. These are the migration paths, but at this moment, it's not included in the assistant yet to migrate these automatically.
Okay, I heard something about a tool called like a project configurator. Do you have any experience with that one?
Yes, the project configurator is an add-on from Adaptivist, which can assist in many scenarios, mainly to migrate specific projects from one environment to another. This can be very useful also if you have, for example, 2 server instances you want to migrate together to one cloud instance. You can first use the project configurator to merge the 2 instances on server and then do one bulk migration to cloud. For migrations from server to cloud, the project configurator doesn't really help that much because it's at this moment more focused on one environment. So you can move from server to server, or there's a new version for clouds now where you can move projects from one cloud instance to another one. But from server to cloud, it's not really that useful at this moment.
Okay. What about if you had a server environment and you were a customer that has a lot of knowledge of the environment, and we all know that the Atlassian stack is very open, so it was easy customizable. And with add-ons like automation and script runner, which are very popular. Let's say I have a script runner and I created about 1,500 scripts to automate many works that needs to be done in the environment, and I want to migrate to the cloud, which is a shared environment.
Yeah. Yeah, for automation, there it's not really a big issue in most cases, because automation uses its own proprietary way of storing data, which is the same in the cloud as in server. So that's not really an issue. But for a script runner, it's a whole different story, because scripts you write on server mostly make use of the Java API. And that's one that is not available in the cloud. In the cloud, you can write scripts, but you will always have to work with the REST API. And that means if you want to migrate your script runner scripts from server to cloud, you basically have to rewrite them and use the REST API instead of the Java API. But
That
all
means...
the functionality is there. You can use everything that you had on server, but it means that you have to rewrite all the scripts. So that means a lot of work.
Yeah, so that's something to take into account. What about my customized fields? Are they easy transferable to the cloud environment?
Customized fields like the standard custom fields that Jira provides, that's not an issue. All the fields that Jira itself provides can be migrated. For plugin fields, that's another story. So Insight, for example, is a very popular plugin for CMDB management. The Insight fields on server are not available in the clouds. So you will need to find other ways to implement the same functionality.
Yeah, so a certain amount of creativity will be required.
Indeed, yeah. It's not that you just can lift your environment from the server and put it in the cloud and everything will work the same. That's unfortunately not the case. You will have to get creative and find other solutions to solve your problems.
And again, we're talking here about the migration of a server to a cloud environment, but also the users need to be migrated from a server application to a SaaS cloud application, which has a slightly different user interface. Do the customers require a lot of training, or can it be done very quickly, or how should we approach it?
Yeah, the user interface is indeed very different, and it depends on the expertise of the customers. If they are really IT skilled teams, then the migration will not be a very big deal. The fields are on other places on the screen, but most people find their way pretty easily. But for the not so skilled or experienced IT users, it can be a bit a burden, and some training, some guidance might be useful for those people.
Yeah. So in that case, it is not to be underestimated that it's change, and a change always requires a good communication upfront before you move to your cloud instance, and that you make your end users aware of the changes and maybe even train them with a kind of online video, which they can see the differences to train them and to inform them. The thing we did not hit, we have always been working with add-ons and the cloud through the Connect platform, which is a kind of a development platform. which, if I'm not mistaken, being not very technical, uses the APIs of the cloud to get data. And now Atlassian has released the Forge platform, and both are available. When would I choose a Forge way of adding features or functionalities, or when would I choose still for a Connect environment?
Yeah, for customers, if they have some custom developed plugins that they want to migrate to the cloud, I would always advise to try it first in Forge, because if you want to have a Connect add-on, that means that you also need a separate server to run your instance, your add-on on. And yeah, that will increase the cost and the complexity of setting it up. Forge itself runs inside of your Jira or Confluence environment, will run on the same servers, and will make your development much easier. Unfortunately, Forge cannot do everything. For example, there's an execution limit of 10 seconds. So it means every command you want to give to your Forge app must be completed in 10 seconds, or else it will just stop and your functionality will not be completed. So if you need long-running tasks, it's maybe better to go directly to a Connect add-on, but for short features like an extra workflow step, or filling up a custom field with some calculations, that can be perfectly done with the Forge apps.
Okay, so like a 10 seconds, that sounds like an eternity, but in case of, for example, a tool that would do business intelligence, it requires much more than 10 seconds.
Yes. So for that kind of tools, you are forced to use a Connect add-on. You don't have the choice of Forge just because of these execution limits. But you have to look at from another perspective. The Forge apps are really used or useful for functionality that is provided in the user interface. And if you have the user interface and you have to wait for more than 10 seconds to get a result in the user interface, that's not really a good user experience.
Okay. We talked a little bit about scripts and automation. Every time there is a script that needs to be executed, it means it uses kind of a processor time or calculate time, or how do you call it on a platform. And that's also the reason that it's, I would call it a feature in disguise, that you have a standard, a premium, and an enterprise plan. The number of executions of a script is limited. So if you have, for example, just a simple setup, and standard cloud would be perfect for you. On the other hand, you are automating a lot and have a lot of executions on it, you will not have enough with a standard. You will need to go to a premium platform, and who knows, maybe an enterprise. Rather, in this case, a premium already has so many executions that it probably will not be the case. Just to scale it a little bit, that's for any migration, the devil is in the details. By choosing your right plan is not just about what features do I need, but also what's behind the execution, and the scripts are forgotten quite a lot of times, to check if that is relevant for this migration.
Yeah, that's certainly something you have to take into account. Now, the automation, it is limited, but that's only for the cross-project automations. So if you have a lot of automations that just work inside of one project, they will not count towards your limits. So that's something to also keep in mind, and that's something that you really have to look into during the assessment of the migration, is how are my automations working? Are they just inside of one project? Then I don't really need to care about the limits. But if they impact other projects, then I should certainly have to look into these limits and make sure that we don't hit the limits, or we have to go to a premium plan or enterprise plan to make sure that we don't get blocked during the month.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. Anything more specific our listeners slash viewers need to know on this subject?
Well, I think that in the case of a migration, it's very good to get someone with some experience on the migrations into your team to prepare the migration, because there are a lot of these kinds of pitfalls, smaller issues that you might not be aware of, that can occur and can impact your final decision on whether to migrate and to which plan you should migrate.
Yeah, I would call it, there is always a difference between the marketing side of a migration and the effective hands-on way of doing a migration. The one looks very easy on a push of the button, but practically seen. A disadvantage could be that if I'm a small company and I have a server instance with 100 users, and I need to migrate to the cloud, or I'm a 1,000 user instance and I need to, with the same setup, and I need to migrate to the cloud, the work will be the same. If I have 1,000 users or 100 users, the time it will cost or the effort it will take will be the same. If I have an identical setup, of course.
Yes.
So that's what we see coming back, a bit of comment that small companies say, well, it costs like 5 days or 6 days of working to do the migration, and a large company is the same. But of course, the costs for a small company in comparison to the number of users they have is quite big compared to a 10 times bigger instance that will have the same amount of work to do.
Yeah, that's correct. But of course, with Jira, you don't really have a choice at this moment. You cannot stay on server forever. So you will have to do it now or in the near future. So maybe it's best to just look at it from that side and just take the costs as a one-off investment, and then reap the benefits afterwards.
I will repeat the dates once for the people that are listening and viewing. Is that the end of support? It's not end of life, because your server licenses are perpetual, so they will go on forever, even if you don't after 2024. But starting from 2022, 2nd of February, there will be no longer any upgrades or downgrades possible of your user tier on server. In 2023, you will not be able to buy any more add-ons for your environment, server environment in this case. And from 2024, there will be no longer support for the server environment. So meaning if there would be any security issue or anything else, then you will not longer receive, of course, if you paid your maintenance, you will no longer receive any fixes for that part. That's just to stress out what the timelines are. So nobody needs to rush, but prepare well. Ask for support if you don't know how to handle it. And the choice can be still made. There's, of course, not only cloud, but also data center, which starts most of the time from a user tier of 500, except for Jira Service Management, which starts at a much lower user tier. If any questions might occur, you can always ask us, and we will be happy to provide you with any kind of support in this case. Joachim, if you still have anything to add, I think can say we came to the end. We touched the playbook, the way of doing the migration, the steps we need to take, the test environment, production environment, aftercare, the pitfalls with certain type of add-ons, scripts, customized fields, data residency, which is a very hot topic here in Europe, well, within the European community, certainly, and the Forge platform, which provides new possibilities in the cloud platform.
I think we mentioned everything, yes. But certainly, if you are in the situation that you are on server and you want to see if you can go to cloud or data center, it's not the case that you are forced to do it right now. You can start an assessment now and then see if it's the right time to do it, or just stay a bit longer on server and then migrate next year or the year after.
Yeah.
There is still time to do it.
Yeah, there are several possibilities of when is the right time. Is, for example, my maintenance will expire on my server environment. Shall I reinvest in another year of maintenance? Yes or no? Or will I use that moment to migrate directly to the cloud environment? Or the other possibility could be that my environment is so big, I need much more time to prepare myself. We have customers with 10,000 user tiers, 15,000 user tiers. That means a huge amount of preparation before they can move to any platform of their choice in the near future. So there is only thing that is left for me to do, Joachim, is to thank you for your time and for this podcast. And I wish you a very great day. If anything might occur, if you have any questions later on or any ideas on how we should improve on this podcast, always feel free to give us some comments. Have a great day all, and I see you at the next podcast.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.